and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. During the February 12th COVID-19 press conference, Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton said that over the past 2 months, the average COVID-19 related deaths decreased from 3 to 0 per day. County Health Administrator Penny Caudill reminded local restaurants of the COVID-19 guidelines.
Nothing changed for them last week. When the gathering size went up, they still must close by 1 a.m. People need to be masked unless they are seated. And if you are seated, you need to be masked if you are receiving service. So if your waiter or waitress, wait person is at your table, you should have your mask on as a courtesy to them. And 6-foot distancing is required among groups, no standing around or dancing. We need to be seated to get our service. Lines for where people are distanced and masked to pick up a drink is allowed.
Monroe County Emergency Management Director Allison Moore said the Red Cross has scheduled blood drives in Monroe County through June and that appointment dates could be found on the county website. IU Health South Central Region Program Director for Community Relations and Outreach, Shayna Gurgis, reported a decrease in COVID-19 inpatient numbers.
That we continue to have a decrease in COVID-19 inpatients across the South Central region and here in Monroe County. And we've actually experienced the lowest inpatient census that we have seen since early October. And it's really about a 500% reduction from our highest peak in December. So this really is something to celebrate, and we are making positive progress. As of yesterday, our IU Health ICUs statewide were at 64% occupancy, and regionally, our IU Health ICUs were at 28% occupied.
As of February 12th, Gurgis said IU Health has administered about 22,900 COVID-19 vaccinations. The Richland Bean Blossom School Board decided to fully reopen schools by March 1st. Superintendent Jerry Sanders spoke about the process during their February 15th meeting.
The changes that we have made were basically for the next 2 weeks to bring the junior high and high school on to the 4-1 schedule, that being Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. All students will be in school and do the e-learning on Wednesday. To do that as a transition to March 1st, having everybody in 5 days a week.
Sanders said Indiana State Department of Health changes in contact tracing and quarantine practices were shared with RBB families. Board member Dana Kerr said in-person school is of high importance to a student's education quality and to their families. The Bloomington Board of Public Works approved right-of-way and street closures for downtown stormwater box culvert replacements. During their February 16th meeting, City Engineer Paul Kerberg said the closures would take place from February 2021 to February 2023.
We have a construction schedule for Milestone, as well as several maintenance of traffic plans that go with the various phases that they have. And we're asking for approval of the street closures based on their construction schedule. And then they will come to pretty much every board meeting with updates about the project and where they are.
Kerberg said all businesses and residents in the affected areas were informed of the closures. Assistant City Attorney Chris Wheeler recommended proposed amendments to Section 24 of the City of Bloomington Rules, Regulations, and Standards of Service. He explained the amendments during the February 16th Utilities Service Board meeting.
And then what we're changing is how we look at Area A, predominantly Area A. And if you can recall, Area A of our sanitary sewer service is the actual service area in existence today. Area A can be inside the municipal boundaries of the city, predominantly it is, and Area A can also be servicing areas outside of the boundaries of the municipal city.
Wheeler clarified that the amendments give the Utilities Director power to approve or deny an annexation petition for a sanitary sewer connection.
That discretion is for the director to grant requests in situations where the owner or owners of the parcel making the request for the extension of sanitary sewer has submitted a valid petition for voluntary annexation as that is defined and described through the requirements of Indiana Code 36-4-3-5.1 or Indiana Code 36-4-3-5. Alternatively, because we do have waivers that we operate under, the director can also grant extensions where waivers have properly been prepared in compliance with other provisions of Section 24.
The Utilities Board unanimously approved the amendments. And we will have more Cats Week after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
There for me, every day.
believing in me,
Showing me what's possible.
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body.
to say I can rather than I can't,
To say no with no apology.
To be a leader.
to finish school,
To own my future.
To break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner,
with you in my corner, I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to Cats Week. The Bloomington Redevelopment Commission accepted ownership of the 4th Street parking garage during their February 16th meeting. Attorney Larry Allen said the ownership would last until 2040.
This is simply a quick claim deed from the Board of Public Works from the City of Bloomington to transfer the ownership to the RDC. The RDC will own the property and the improvements, so including the garage, for the life of the bond. It's a 20-year bond, so through 2040. At the payoff of the bond, we would then reconvey it back to the City of Bloomington for ownership back and through the Board of Public Works, which has been the process in the past for any bond-approved project. This also happened with, for instance, the transit center. When we built a new transit center, is that the RDC took ownership for a while and then reconveyed it back to the city.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Nick Kappas asked Allen about any outside influences maintaining control of the property once ownership is taken.
What City Council will be able to set are certainly the rates, any kind of policies for parking in the garage. So it will be subject to that. But by and large, I don't I don't think that there would be anything. It's still an asset. It's also an asset that we have to preserve and own for the purposes of the bonds. So because there's a debt issue out there, there's also that sensitivity in terms of the use of the property, making sure that the property still has value for the life of those bonds. And that'll be
so I guess, so would we establish the use of the property, or would city council establish the use of the property?
I don't know that. When you say establish the use of the property, do you mean zone it
for instance, like, yeah, so for instance, well, I mean, zoning is P&T and Plan Commission and all them, but like specifically say the commercial, right? What if the RDC didn't want commercial in their property anymore? What would happen?
I think that would be a big conversation with everybody in the city. Certainly if the board passed something where you didn't want commercial and there would be some other use for that portion. So maybe it would be offices or something like that. That would certainly be an RDC approved thing. And in terms of somebody else doing that without your knowledge, that would not happen. It would it would require approval of the redevelopment commission.
Okay.
Commissioner David Walter said the Redevelopment Commission would have more funds to maintain the life of the structure. However, City Controller Jeff Underwood said parking fees may need to be increased for maintenance costs. The Monroe County Board of Health discussed community regulations during their February 16th meeting. Health Administrator Penny Caudill said multiple complaints were received about gym mask requirements.
The recommendation is that the Board of Health, that staff should wear face covering and patrons at all times to reduce possible transmission or exposure when people are in the gym. And the exception would only be when the activity is incompatible, which this is in the regulations with wearing a face covering, including swimming. However, a minimum of 6 foot distancing must be maintained. So
Caudill said if a 6 foot distance is not possible, all patrons should be masked regardless of the activity. Board member Ashley Craner said she has seen multiple gyms out of compliance.
I have several friends that do heavy weightlifting, and they're posting on their Instagram and such, and they are not here locally, are not wearing masks. And it made me think about our language. I think they're getting away with it. They're not doing it, therefore getting away with it. So I think that, it's definitely, I don't know if it's the way our language is written or if they just are ignoring the safety precautions. But I definitely know they're not. A lot of them. I've seen plenty of pictures.
Board member Carol Litton-Talukian speculated that a gym would be one of the most dangerous places to go without a mask. Craner suggested the board should focus on enforcing mask and distancing mandates in gyms. Community Corrections Director Becca Street presented the 2020 Community Correction Grant Annual Report to the Monroe County Commissioners on February 17th. Street said the department received grant funds for their 37th year in a row.
Since the beginning of our community corrections program in 1983, our department has grown by leaps and bounds, not only having more staff and more programs, but also serving a lot more clients. Community corrections, we operate our Community Alternative Supervision Program, or CASP, and that includes our home detention, electronic monitoring, and day reporting programs. We also operate the 4 problem-solving courts: drug treatment court, mental health court, veterans court, and our reentry court. And then we also run our community service and our pretrial services program.
Street said community corrections received about $1.3 million throughout 2020. She said staff members continued to work throughout the pandemic.
So even though some of the office was closed in last spring, we still had staff who were coming in every day during that closure. Our pretrial staff was coming in to complete jail assessments on people who had just been arrested, so the judges could use that information to make release decisions. And then our problem-solving courts were still running with regular court hearings and even check-ins.
Street said the Monroe County pretrial program was certified by the Indiana Office of Court Services, and over 1,500 pretrial assessments were conducted in 2020. Commissioner Lee Jones expressed her excitement for the pretrial certification.
Exciting program. I believe that kind of countrywide communities are becoming interested in this.
Yes.
Many communities have overcrowded jails, and this does help quite a bit to keep people out of jail who don't need to be there, and also saves a huge amount of money. Having people in jail is very, very expensive.
Street spoke about the continued operation of problem-solving courts throughout 2020. Commissioner Penny Githens said problem-solving courts allow families to stay together.
I'm really pleased about what's going on with the problem-solving courts. It allows people to stay employed, stay with their families, continue as parents. Just keeps a lot of disruption in people's lives down. Plus, it keeps them from having, if they are successful, it keeps them from having felonies on their record. I was really pleased to see 474 people have graduated from the drug and alcohol court. Wow. And anybody who thinks that this is an easy thing should go watch a session of this with Judge Decock.
The commissioners unanimously accepted the annual presentation from Community Corrections. And we will have more Cats Week after this message.
Let's talk about sex.
What is consent?
And what's not?
Consent is based on choice.
Consent is active, not passive.
Consent is giving permission without feeling pressure.
What is not consent?
Silence.
Passed out.
Intoxicated.
Fear.
It is not consent.
Got consent?
Ask.
Sex without consent is a crime. Only yes means yes.
Welcome back to Cats Week. The Bloomington City Council discussed amendments to the Bloomington Municipal Code regarding council standing committees. City Clerk Nicole Bolden described the changes during the February 17th City Council meeting.
It requires that certain information about each city board or commission be maintained on the city's website and revises the process to be followed upon a board or commission vacancy. It revises Bloomington Municipal Code Section 2.04.050, regular meetings, to clarify that the council may schedule its summer recess as needed. It revises Bloomington Municipal Code 2.04.255, committee scheduling, to clarify council committee scheduling and the process of referring legislation to a council committee. It revises Bloomington Municipal Code Section 2.04.270, ordinances and resolutions, filing, copies, and agendas, to specify that the council president is authorized to approve the agendas for committee meetings convened to consider legislation referred to them. It deletes Bloomington Municipal Code Section 2.04.290, ordinances and resolutions, fiscal impact statement required.
Councilmember Isabel Piedmont Smith presented an amendment to the ordinance regarding fiscal impact statements. She said some council members saw value in keeping the fiscal impact statement requirement.
We have proposed to delete or revise Section 7 entitled Ordinance and Resolutions - Fiscal Impact Statement Required. So the new wording would read as follows. All proposed legislation must be accompanied by a statement describing the impact of that legislation on the city's finances, including but not limited to revenues, expenditures, and any new debt obligations.
Council members approved the first amendment. Councilmember Sue Scambaluri presented a second amendment regarding standing committee referrals.
This amendment would essentially remove one specific sentence. And that's this one. Motions for referral to a standing committee shall be entertained before a motion for referral to committee of the whole, and shall include the approximate time at which the committee will convene. When this language was originally shared with us, it was described as language that would essentially force council to try committees, to essentially put a thumb on the scale, so to speak, and nudge legislation toward a standing committee rather than toward committee of the whole. Just for context, I am among those who supported the creation of standing committees last year. So I look at them through that lens. It's now almost a year later, okay? Council members have had a chance to see committees at work, both for actual legislation and for topics that are not the subject of legislation. We've had a chance to see how they work. We should no longer require a thumb on the scale.
Scambaluri said the amendment would still allow the council to overturn the president's referral to a standing committee if seen unfit. Council member Matt Flaherty explained his opposition to the amendment.
I really didn't see it as a thumb on the scale or a way to force things to go to committee, and especially with this legislation bringing the ability for a preliminary referral or sort of presumptive referral into the purview of the president. We'll sort of have that preference in hand in the future. More so, my opposition has to do with my continued belief that we're not using committee of the whole correctly. And I finally read the full Robert's Rules section on that. If my colleagues haven't, or haven't done so recently, I would urge you to do so. In my 11th edition, it's pages 529 to 538. And it's just very, very plain that that how we use committee of the whole is not how that parliamentary process is intended to be used.
Councilmember Piedmont Smith said any piece of legislation should default to a standing committee. The Second Amendment was approved with Volin, Piedmont Smith, and Flaherty voting against. The council unanimously approved the ordinance as amended. Monroe County Public Library strategist for staff development and projects, Bara Swinson, announced the 2020 Pioneer Grant recipients during the February 17th MCPL Board of Trustees meeting. Swinson said that Bethany Turrentine and Kim Baker were awarded funds for a dyslexia-focused project. Baker said dyslexia has a high presence in the community.
Dyslexia is really prevalent, right? Nationally, it's estimated that 10 to 20% of our population has dyslexia. And here in Indiana, it's estimated that 20% of our children have dyslexia. And dyslexia isn't something that goes away. I don't have the statistics for the adults, right? But if 20% of our children have dyslexia, they're going to grow up and become adults with dyslexia. So we can kind of guess that about 20% of our adult population also has dyslexia.
Baker said that the grant funds would support staff training on dyslexia awareness and that 30 staff members have already completed the training. She also mentioned several other accomplishments of the project.
We've created new information and resource pages on dyslexia on our website, created a Celebrate Dyslexia book list for youth. Communication and marketing's helped me create new signage and children's to follow the International Federation of Library Association's guidelines on providing dyslexia services in libraries. Created a dyslexia awareness video program to spread dyslexia awareness in our community. It has 244 views to date. And we started to seek out further training in dyslexia for the staff, which is one of the things that our staff who completed the survey indicated that they wanted as a follow-up. They just want more training on this so they can learn even more about this topic.
Swinson said that Edwin Falwell and Jen Hoffman have also received a grant for adventure backpacks. Falwell spoke about what would be included in the backpacks.
For us, we conceived of them and assembled the adventure backpacks with the aim to kind of provide tools for aiding people in their outdoor adventures and to help provide easier access to outdoor experiences for library patrons. The tools that we include in the backpack include field guides to flowers, to birds, to trees, a set of binoculars, a compass, a simple first aid kit, maps, and activities from the State Parks Department. We've also included in each backpack a voucher good for free admission to any Indiana State Park. We worked with the DNR to pioneer this pilot program. The backpacks each check out for 2 weeks and cannot be renewed in order to make this limited resource available to the widest possible audience.
Falwell said adventure backpacks were checked out at a total of 17 times in 2020. The Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners heard an appeal of a proposed tree removal at Lower Cascades Park. Appellant Susan Glowitz argued that younger trees could be removed from the opposing street side.
There is a desire to widen the bank
in order to slow the flow of the water to decrease the erosion of the bank, which makes sense. I'm curious if it's possible to widen the bank in the eastern rather than the western direction, as the western direction has the mature trees that I'm concerned about. The eastern direction has trees as well, but they are younger or a different variety, so they're smaller. And many of them have roots that are jutting out and over the water, and some look like they're going to topple over as well. So I'm curious if that's a possibility.
Glowett said that the street width could be decreased if the street were to be turned into a pedestrian-only street. She also said that the mature trees would be a great community and habitat loss. Urban forester Aaron Hatch said that the trees must be removed before April 1st.
I will say that this project is being regulated by the Indiana bat restrictions that come in place with certain tree removals. So there is a timeline that we're allowed to remove trees as part of this project, which would be between September and April 1st. So there is a need to conduct this project within that timeline.
Hatch said that the current 23 trees were chosen after drastic project modifications from the original number. Operations and Development Division Director Tim Street said the stormwater flow to Cascades has seen an increase.
There's more and more stormwater flowing into Cascades because of more and more non-permeable surfaces that have been constructed. As that stormwater has flowed into that creek, which I think we have to remember, stop sharing here, is not in its natural state. It was built into a chute many years ago. The water has nowhere to go. It funnels, it increases sedimentation downstream and degrades the quality of the watershed, both there and downstream in the Bean Blossom watershed, all the way out to the lower White Fork watershed.
Street said that the erosion has created safety hazards in the park. Hatch said mitigation trees would be planted at a 5-to-1 ratio, the trees being 4 to 6 feet in height. The park commissioners unanimously denied the appeal. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.